How blessed are we that we are part of a fandom, a franchise that continues to pump out material at a pretty consistent rate
Right.
for the past 50 years. Hey guys, welcome to the Rogue 3 podcast, where we discuss everything Star Wars with a positive outlook on the saga we love. I'm Austin.
I'm Mike.
And I'm Austin.
And today we are going to be doing a look ahead into 2026. So we're going to be talking about some of the projects that we're going to be seeing this year, some of our thoughts on them. And we are going to start with some very recent news at the time of recording. You guys will be hearing our thoughts on this a little bit after the fact, but the change in president of Lucasfilm.
It's probably going to be the biggest change this year, like the biggest Star Wars event
this
year almost. Yeah.
Absolutely. So Kathleen Kennedy, who has been the president of Lucasfilm for the past, when did she start working at Lucasfilm? 2012?
I think 12 was when the sale happened. Yeah.
Well, and she's producing films.
She was on the
and
first
stuff like
Indiana
that.
Jones.
Yeah. So she's one of the old time,
long time producer.
Yeah.
A lot of amazing movies under her belt. So a big change, obviously, with the way that the fandom is. It's very explosive, and some people are showing that they're not adults. And so we are going to see her, she's going to continue producing, but we are going to see her replaced by Lin-Wen Brennan and Dave Filoni. So what are your all's thoughts there?
Yeah, I think this is she's definitely put in her time. Like, she's been doing this for over a decade now, and that's for like head of a company time. It's a very long time to be doing that. So, and she has taken Star Wars from being or Lucasfilm from being a brand that released a movie every few years to like a giant media company that's released so many movies and TV shows and video games and theme parks and books and like all the stuff we talk about all the time is definitely a result of the work she's put in. And I really like that she picked two people to replace her. It's not just we're not gonna have one person that's the face of Lucasfilm. She has Dave Filoni, who's going to be handling the creative or leading the creative side of things, and Lin-Wen Brennan, who's going to be doing the numbers and stuff that's actually like important to running a business. I mean, the creative is always like critical for everything, but I always laugh when I hear people say that they want they always like, I want Dave Filoni to lead everything. It's like, you don't want him to be the sole person in charge, because then he stops making movies and he's having like board meetings with like video game companies to be like, you got to pay us this amount of money, not this amount of money, all that stuff. So I'm glad that's not going to be where he's spending his time. And Lin-Wen seems like a great person for that role.
Lin-Wen has been with Lucasfilm, or not, Lucasfilm adjacent, I guess. She's been with ILM for an enormous amount of time. She joined in 99, and just 10 years later, she became the president of ILM, which is very impressive.
Yeah.
And
so then, really, Dave's the newcomer in that.
I know, right?
In a way, right? Which is hard to believe, because he's also been there for a long time, since 2005, like 20 plus years. He was just honored recently with 20 years at Lucasfilm.
Wow, yeah.
And I'm right there with you, Austin, of liking that there's two people to handle it. There's someone who's the business kind of side, and then the creative side. So, obviously Kathleen talked a lot about like business decisions and what effect those have had on the creative side. And so maybe that will help to have someone be able to focus more and push more on the business side to get that creative side to go through and have kind of a consistent vision of what it's going to be.
It's going to be interesting to see where they take it. Now, obviously, because we have to have a blame person. People are suddenly coming out of the woodwork and saying, Dave Filoni sucks. What are our thoughts about that?
I don't think he sucks. I don't think he's without flaw. Like I think the contrary side of that is a lot of people view him as someone who doesn't have any issues. But um, I I mean, obviously, I love what the work he's done, and I'm excited to see what he can do going forward. You know, it's not. I would say this is not dissimilar to where he started his career with George Lucas. Like George Lucas was, doing the creative things, but he was not in the writers' room every day, pitching all the stuff or you know, heading up everything. But he was overseeing it, and that's going to be Dave's new role. And so, who better to learn that from than George Lucas?
I'm curious with Dave's new role and like him also directing a movie and what that's going to be like if he'll still have the time to be able to direct that movie and do all of that, or if that's going to get passed off like a Richard Marquand situation where some other director will come in. Dave's still kind of overseeing as the executive producer, but he's not on the ground doing all of the directing and editing and all of that kind of stuff because of this change that could really change his direct role in the products that come out.
Well, we know that they've postponed that movie.
Yes. It's on the back burner now.
I imagine most of the directorial stuff with Ahsoka is done at this point, but the show running, there's still a lot of show running duties left, so I don't know if he's going to hand that off, or I'm sure they have all that squared away. That's not really something we need to be worried about. But for projects going forward, it'll impact them.
One of the big criticisms of the past few years of Star Wars has been a lack of an overarching vision. Do you think we'll see a change in that, or do you think things will remain the same?
I think that firmly falls on what Disney will do. As we heard in Kathleen Kennedy's interview of what she talked about, the difficulties of you have these things that are kind of breaking the mold or doing different things. And there's pushback from the corporate overlords against a lot of those things. And perhaps that's the pathway forward of, look, now we'll have just this one consistent vision going forward. And that's going to be better for that of, we're not going to go a little bit over there and a little bit over here. It's going to be this kind of straight and narrow path, so to speak, maybe, of having someone in that kind of creative. I mean, Dave's already been in like a creative director role, seeing that vision, but maybe that will help a little bit more and get some of those projects that have died or been on the back burner and push certain things forward, because it's going to build on each other.
Well, I do think one thing that we're in a good position for, in regards to like the Disney corporate side of things, is Disney is also, like, Disney broadly is going through a leadership transition right now. In fact, we're at, like, by the time this episode comes out, we may know who the next CEO or possibly co-CEOs or like there's discussion around that right now.
Welcome back.
Our organization does not. No, thank you.
But we're not going to speak that.
No. Can we just say no more Bobs? Can we get a
no Bob?
Retire the name Robert for a while. The two likely candidates, like the ones that all the Wall Street people are talking about, is a guy who heads up the theme parks right now, and then I believe she's their CFO, so like a finance background. So we don't really know how they're going to interact with like overseeing the film divisions when that comes to be. And their transition will happen next year. So that will give Dave and Loman time that will give them a year runway to try to get things under their footing before they're reporting to the new boss. Something promising is that Kathleen said they have a film trilogy written, or a treatment written for a new film trilogy.
The Simon Kinberg one, right?
The Simon Kinberg one, which they feel very promising about. So it's nice to have a treatment for 3 movies instead of 1 movie. I think they know that was a problem last time. And so I think we're in a good place. So there's a lot going on. I'm looking forward to, once the smoke kind of clears from this, like being able to look back on her legacy and all the stuff she's done, because it's quite impressive. I mean, she has overseen more projects than George Lucas did.
I was gonna say, like, what Star Wars is today is so different from when it was first sold and she
Yeah.
steps into the reins, right?
Yeah.
Because we're expecting movies all the time. We're expecting TV shows every year. And that was not reality as a Star Wars fan before that change.
Speaking of, all these changes on the horizon, why don't we talk about some of the things coming up this year?
Yeah, we got a lot to talk
Yeah.
about, don't we?
Yeah, we
Yeah.
do. Especially
Mainly
because
the biggest one, is the Mandalorian
have a
Grogu
movie.
coming out. Yeah,
Yeah.
first Star Wars movie since 2019.
7 years
crazy?
it took.
Yeah,
Yeah. That is wild to think about. But it's kind of wild to think about what one it is. If you had gone back, even when Mando first started in 2019, right as Rise of Skywalker came out, this show was also basically premiering.
Yeah.
And that the next movie we get is after 3 seasons of that show, and it seems like it's going to be a standalone adventure. Seems so odd when you look at it, but it makes sense of like, this has been really successful. The marketing of Mandalorian and Grogu has been really, really successful.
Yeah.
So why not try it and see about getting Star Wars back in theater, getting people back in theaters for Star Wars, and do it with something that a lot of people know about already, rather than a brand new story, something that's unknown. Do something that people know.
I will say, I'm really curious. You talk about the things like do something people know. This is the first Star Wars movie where the title is 2 nonsense words. Like it's like words that don't mean anything outside Star Wars.
Yeah.
And I'm curious, like how that is going to impact box office. Like my grandma knows what a Jedi is, but she doesn't know what a Grogu is. And like she may not even know what Baby Yoda, like she may not even recognize like Baby Yoda. And
Mhm.
so she's not who they're like catering this to. But I feel like has historically been like a very like easy to approach thing from the general public. Kind of like
Mhm.
like a good comparison is like Avatar. Like you really just kind of need your fuzzy memories of what happened in the last one, and then you're like good to go. You don't have to read a bunch of stuff or watch things besides the movie that came right before it. I'm curious if people are going to view Mandalorian and Grogu not that way. They're going to be like, oh, I've missed, 4 seasons of television that fed into this, and I don't really know what's going on.
That's true. Yeah. I wonder. Sorry, I was gonna say, I wonder like how much that relates to like the Avengers 2012 when that came out. The same idea of like, it felt like at the time a lot of people were going to see that movie even if they didn't watch Thor or other movies. So that's kind of what I'm hoping is that it's Star Wars in movie theater, so people are going to go even if they haven't watched the show.
Yeah.
And at least it's a lot easier to catch up on the show now with streaming than it would be to have gone back and watched multiple movies that you might have to catch on TV or something else. It's a lot easier to try and catch up right before the movie's out.
I think it's important to remember that not everyone is as continuity focused as Star Wars fans. I don't think people are going to care that they missed anything at all. I also think that even with the nonsense words, at least colloquially, everyone around me seems to know what Mandalorian is. At least they can identify it with what he looks like. And they know that is Mandalorian. And I've heard more and more people using the term Grogu instead of Baby Yoda. Now I still hear Baby Yoda a lot, but I do hear Grogu some. You know what I never hear?
The child.
The child. I never hear the child.
Yeah.
Stop trying to make the child happen. It's not going to happen.
It's not going to happen. So I think it's gonna do well. It's Star Wars in theaters for the first time after a long time. And it has some big cast members in it. Pedro Pascal is hot right now. So
Yes.
you've got the people who will just go
Multiple
see whatever
ways.
Pedro's in. And yes, in multiple ways. And then obviously you have the always flaming hot Sigourney Weaver.
Absolutely.
Who I am just so ridiculously excited to see in a Star Wars movie.
Yeah.
So
It's
I think
a classic sci-fi person getting into Star Wars is always fun.
it is fun.
People kind of rant about it or talk about, but I loved having Christopher Lloyd in Mando
Yeah.
season 3. That was a lot of fun to have someone from the Back to Future movies be put into Star Wars and get to play a fun role.
Count Dooku was a visionary.
Yes,
Count
yeah,
Dooku was a
yeah.
visionary.
It's so true.
From a continuity standpoint, how do you all feel about this being a standalone adventure and not a continuation of the
I'm
series? Are
season
we going
3.
to get a resolution to the series?
I'm really pumped about it. I think Mandalorian was best when it was small scale and standalone adventures, like the season 1 vibe of Mandalorian. I mean, that's not to say I had so much that I enjoyed in season 2 and 3, but I think Mandalorian was its strongest from like an objective storytelling standpoint when it was just focused on Mandalorian and Grogu going on little adventures. And so much of the Mandalorian Grogu was like has been like reset back to where it was towards the beginning. Like he has like the Razor Crest back and all that stuff. So I'm kind of excited for a small scale thing. It's cool that like like the Hutts are involved and we're getting to see Rada again.
Yeah.
For the first time. I would love it if it stayed relatively self-contained. It was mostly like character work for Mando.
Yeah, I did really like the serial vibe of the first season. I usually want an overarching storyline, and I felt like with at the time the child, there was enough of that, but he's still going on adventures and collecting on bounties and things like that. That it felt right. It felt like an Old West kind of show where there's a bounty of the week sort of idea, and I really liked that. So I'm kind of hoping that it gets back to that almost. That it's just like a fun adventure. It doesn't need galaxy-wide implications. We talked about that with some of the books we read last year, that we don't have to have every book have huge impacts across the entire, canon.
So just to push forward a little bit, we have some TV on the horizon this year as well. I don't think that we're going to get another Tales show this year. I think there's too much going on right in May. I'm not expecting it.
Okay, remember with Tales of the Underworld, they announced it like 2 weeks before it came out. Like, it was a very brief window, and I don't know how things are going in the animation department right now. Like, I don't know what the status is, because Bad Batch was wrapped, and they had moved on to Shadow Lord, but usually have like people branching off to do the Tales thing. So. I would like to think they have some bandwidth to do one, but I have no idea.
I'm just really getting the vibes that there's no bandwidth for it. I don't know. I don't really have anything to base it off of. I just think that last year, but we were between shows and they had time to put stuff together. And with another animated show about to launch, it might not launch on May 4th. I just don't see it being Tales, but who knows?
I'm curious because there's at least one pre-release comic coming out that's revolving around Maul, and I think that's supposed to be in March. And so I wouldn't be surprised if actually it comes out a little bit before
April
and goes like Andor timeline of April into a little bit of May. And that is almost like, who knows? We don't know how long Shadow Lord's going to be. We don't know how many episodes. And so perhaps that leads right into Mando and Grogu. But like on the point of Tales, we were still getting Tales of the Empire while Bad Batch was happening, right? Yeah. We got 3 seasons of that from like 21 to 24, 25. So I think we were still getting Tales in between there because it's a low commitment. It's 20 minute or so. It's fairly short. But we'll see.
Tales of the Jedi 22,
21, I think.
It was 21. Empire and Underworld were back to back, so it was the year.
Maybe it was 22, and then they skipped 23 and did 24,
25. I think that's what it was.
Yeah. There was 1 year gap between Jedi and Empire.
They're not opposed to overlapping because if I'm not mistaken, Resistance, Mandalorian, and Rise of Skywalker were all coming out at the same time.
Yeah.
But I think they're also there's also a lot less content right now, so I think they might be trying to slow their roll. But you never know.
Right.
We're not in that boardroom, but it's very. I feel like
shadowy.
with these animated shows, we just keep like with each subsequent one, it's like becoming like less and less like family friendly. Like that little bit we've seen, it's like I don't know that I would show like 8-year-old this,
Yeah.
but I mean, I'm excited about it. Like the raw stuff we've gotten in the past is really good. I was talking with Austin about this the other day. I just don't know what this show can be about because like in Clone Wars, he was living in a trash pile. Then he became leader of the Mandalorians, and then at some point he was heading up a crime syndicate between being deposed. And then between being a crime syndicate, he became like a little homeless hermit again. and
Right.
and there can't be a ton of character development with him.
Yeah. I think it could be like his rise as a crime lord,
Yeah.
to the fall then, and Crimson Dawn that disappears for 15 years. Or it could be like his ascension to the top of that food chain.
Do we think we're going to see Kira?
I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, that
If
isn't
there's at
seem
least
like a season
mentions.
one thing to me, but it seems like that could be a thing that happens down
I
the
would be
line.
really
I
excited.
think it would be
We can
cool.
finally get some resolution to Solo.
Right.
And we know we're getting possible Darth Talon. For listeners not familiar, Darth Talon was a Legends character that was a red Twi'lek that had like Darth Maul pattern on her. I wonder if the show is going to be like maybe like through her eyes, like she's like kind of like the character that we're following, like watching Darth Maul. Because a lot of times, like as we've seen with like the books, when a villain is the focus of the book, you don't usually make them the like protagonist. Like it's usually another character like interacting with them. So I'm curious what the setup is going to be for the show.
Well, we got some other shows coming up.
Yeah, Ahsoka is the big live action show this year, which I'm really excited about. She let's see, season 1 came out 2 years ago. At this point,
23 years.
23, yeah.
Yeah.
So we've been waiting on this a long time. She's been stuck on that planet, and Ezra made it back to Hera.
Right.
And then other than that, like there's not been any story developed. There's not been another like Mandoverse show that's like carried that story forward. So I'm very excited to get back with all those characters. I think we got some potential for some really cool weird Force stuff, which I'm excited about. So that's probably the show I'm most excited for this year.
Yeah, we'll finally finish Rebels season 6.
Rebels season 6.
Right?
I'm ready for it.
Yeah.
And then we'll cap it all off once eventually they take off heir to the Empire off the back burner.
Yeah.
Very excited.
I'm excited for Ahsoka too to get into some of the weird mysticism of the Force, and we see the statues of the father on Peridia and that stuff. I that was a lot of fun in Rebels and in Clone Wars. Like I like that stuff a lot. I've talked about it before of like the mysticism and weirdness of the Force. So I think that's going to be the show that like really, like Mando and Grogu's not going to do that. Starfighter is not going to do that. Ahsoka is.
Yeah.
So then we have one other series, and it's probably, I think, slipping kind of past the radar for a lot of people, which is The Ninth Jedi, which is based off the Star Wars Visions. There's 2 shorts that are about The Ninth Jedi, and there's going to be a full series made about it now. And again, not canon like Visions, as far as we know. It's not going to be a canon story. But The Ninth Jedi was one of, I think, my favorite of the first season of Visions. I think that one stood out, and The Duel stood out for me, those two. And then the newest one that came out in 2025 was a great follow-up, not as good, but I really liked the, I think Toda, that was voiced by Freddie Highmore. That droid was one of my favorite droids of all time. It was so sweet, so fun. So I'm like, I know he's unfortunately not going to be in it. But I'm curious what this series is going to be like, because this is so different. This is so different from everything else we've gotten in terms of like a non-canon, non-traditional like American animation style. And so I really there's not that much out there about it of like when it's going to be and all of that, but I'm kind of intrigued by it. It could be just like, again, a really fun watch.
And it's fun to see him take risks and do new things. So I'm
excited.
Well, we got some books too. What's our first one?
Yeah, actually coming out the day after this should air on February 3rd is going to be Low Red Moon by Mike Chen. And that's going to be a companion book or a tie-in book to Star Wars Outlaws, the video game that came out in 2024, following KVS, which was a really fun game. It unfortunately got a little derided by people. There were some issues, I think, with playing it at first, which is pretty common with games nowadays of having some issues,
especially Ubisoft games.
Yeah, yes, but it got fixed really quickly. I mean, when I played it, I didn't play it right away. I had probably a couple weeks where I was too busy to really get into it. I had no issues with it ever.
I was on Xbox and I played it from day one, and I never had a problem with it at all.
Yeah.
I loved the exploration. I loved the combat was fun. Just the way it controlled was a really fun game. But we had some interesting characters as well, which is why we're getting a prequel book.
So this is a prequel, and it's going to be following Jalen, who's the kind of instigator of KVS's story in a way, but also then becomes a villain. It's spoiler alert, too late for that, but he starts out seeming like he's helping you out, but then reveals that he's not. And then it's going to be with him and ND5, which is the sexy
amazing
droid in the trench coat. That was a great droid character. I think that's been one of the strongest things in the last couple years in terms of like droid characters. ND5 was really great. Seeing him struggle and trying to fight back against a restraining bolt and programming and stuff like that. So this will be interesting to see how him and Jalen become friends, because they seemed like a very, very tight knit pair. And then kind of ND5 goes off with Kay and becomes very tight knit with her. So I think that will be interesting to see what their story is going to be. And I like the books that Mike Chen has done before. And so that'll, I think, I'm excited about it.
I have to be honest, I'm reading it entirely because of ND5. That's kind of what's driving me here. But Mike Chen also did Brotherhood, and that was very well received. So high hopes that Outlaws looks good.
Yeah, so coming out a week apart from each other, we have two new sequel era books that I'm really excited about. Most notably is Star Wars Legacy, which is the book that's taking place between Last Jedi and Rise of Skywalker, focusing on Leia and Rey, and kind of like the legacy of Kylo Ren / Ben Solo. And I'm really excited to see, we haven't gotten, I don't think we've gotten a Rey book or like a Rey focused anything since Resistance Reborn and Rise of Skywalker. So this is really, really exciting. I love me some Rey and Leia and Kylo. So get another book in that world is really exciting. I feel like we're far enough removed from those movies now that they can do books and things. So that'll be cool. But the other one is also, don't want to breeze past it, Eyes Like Stars. It is it's part of a new publishing initiative. I can't remember the name of it, but it's like doing Star Wars books in different genres. And this is a YA romance that takes place at the time of the sequel trilogy, and
set about a year and a half before Force Awakens.
Yeah, and it's getting a lot of I don't know if this is undue. I don't want us to be creating false expectations, but a lot of people are like comparing it thematically to Lost Stars, which is one of the most like beloved Star Wars books. So if it's like half as good as that, we'll be in good.
And that one is done by Ashley Poston, who's a newcomer to the Star Wars franchise. She's done an enormous amount of YA and romance books before, so I'm sure it'll be very well written for the genre. I am new to romance books. I've never read a romance book. I'll definitely read this one, obviously. So I'm excited to see how that goes.
I really want to get my local bookstore that I go and buy all of my Star Wars books at. They have a book club that does specifically romance books. And so I was like, I'm figuring out a way to get them to do this one. And I'm like, I'll be a part of it for this month while you guys are reading this Star Wars romance book, because I think that would be so much fun.
Fun.
Downtown Books, I'm gonna be coming to you with an idea.
That'll be fun. And then
Yeah.
we have one more pretty major book this year. I think this is kind of going to be the highlight of all of our books this year. We have the Reign of the Empire sequel, Edge of the Abyss by Rebecca Roanhorse. It's going to be set about a year before Andor season 1 in 6 BBY, and it's going to continue to follow Mon Mothma, Bail Organa, and Saw Gerrera, as we are trying to escape the inescapable grip of the Empire.
I'm really excited about that one. So Rebecca Roanhorse, she wrote Resistance Reborn, which I really enjoyed. That was a book that was like right before Rise of Skywalker came out, and it tied together like a lot of threads from like various books together. And she was managing a very large cast of characters, and so that's puts her in a good spot to handle this series, because she's walking in some really big shoes to fill after Mask of Fear. And so but
Yep.
I think she's going to be up to the task, because there will be a lot of people very excited to read that book.
I'm really surprised after Mask of Fear was set 1 year, or like just a couple months after the Empire is created, to then we jump forward like 15 years almost.
Yeah.
And that's crazy that like I thought like, okay, we're gonna space these out and then we'll lead up to Andor with the last one, because it's a trilogy, so there's one more after this happening. And so I thought, okay, that will be when that happens. But we jumped way forward, so I'm kind of curious of what they're gonna do and how, and what the storyline's gonna be of like, where is Saw Gerrera? Because when Rebels is going on, even a couple years after this, Saw Gerrera is still firmly part of the Rebel Alliance. And so what are we going to see? Because he really, in the first one, played kind of a back burner almost. So does he take a more prominent role? We've talked about how he's always around things, but never the lead character.
I don't like Saw Gerrera. And when he came on page in the first book, I would normally just roll my eyes and try to get through it as fast as I could. I don't particularly find him interesting. I'm more interested in the Mon Mothma, Bail Organa of it all. So I appreciate the sentiment, but I'm more I hope that there's not.
I will say in Saw's defense, he was like, when the book was split into thirds, his third was like not really about him. It was about other characters, and he was kind of in the background of their parts. So maybe like putting him more in the forefront would make him a bit more interesting. It's unfortunate you don't like Saw Gerrera, because Lucasfilm sort of seems to love him, because
they sure do.
Well, and that's what, like, maybe having a book from his perspective will get you to like him a little bit more, because you'll see some of his inner thoughts or ideas, and like we've only seen him from other characters that are always against him, right? So like we've been, he's a rebel, but he's a rebel that does things not the best way. Perhaps having a book that's written with him a little bit more from his perspective, they'll kind of get a little bit more of a buy-in. Who knows? So those are the only books that we know right now. 4 books.
So
I'm
far,
sure we know that there's going to be more. I'm hoping for maybe something that's a little bit High Republic in terms of phase more. We know that there are comic books that are going to be coming out for High Republic. And so I'm sure there's going to be more throughout the year. And I know some of these will be doing episodes on, but probably not all of them, depending on especially having 2 a week apart, with Eyes Like Us and Legacy coming out in July, basically a week apart right now. And then we also have 2 games that are going to be coming out.
Finally, we have some video games. It has been too long. I think that Outlaws came out in 24?
24. Yeah, fall 24.
And it's just exhausting not having Star Wars games. We used to get so many, and that is one area where we need to see some improvement. So we have 2 coming out. One is going to be a turn-based tactics game called Zero Company. You're going to be following a squad set during the Clone Wars. You will be creating your own character in the game, which is really fun. I think it's going to take on some more role-playing elements. I'm sure you get to outfit your squad the way you'd like to. And then those of you who are not familiar with the tactics game, it's basically like a turn-based. You make your little squad walk around the battlefield and you attack things and they attack you back. It's fun. Alexander Freed worked on the game a little bit, very, very little bit, but he was part of the game, which is always good to hear. And it does sound like you'll be able to make choices, which is exciting. We don't know a whole lot more than that, unfortunately.
It's kind of the same with the other game, which is Galactic Racer. It's going to be a racing game. We know that much. It's not pod racing. It's something else. It's not Swoop Bikes, which is Knights of the Old Republic either, as far as we can tell based on the trailer. But it's going to be set during the New Republic. So kind of maybe that Mandalorian timeline a little bit. We know there's going to be a preset character, so there is going to be some canon storyline a little bit. We'll see if it connects to anything else or if it's going to be its own kind of standalone story with a character named Shade. And we do know that fan favorite Sebulba will come back. There's single player and multiplayer, which is fun for a racing game. And so we'll see. There's, again, like the Zero Company game, there's not that much out, no release date or anything, just coming in 2026. So we'll see what that's like. Star Wars Racer was one of my favorite games growing up, so I kind of hope there's something like this. If I don't hear new lap record, I'll be disappointed, but I can't, beggars can't be choosers. I'm just happy we're getting some games.
I know, I am too.
And then moving away from games, kind of the last big frontier this year is theme parks. So the one thing we did know about ahead of time was that we were getting a major overhaul of the Millennium Falcon Smugglers Run attraction in both Disney's Hollywood Studios in Florida and Disneyland in California. And that ride is currently set during the sequel era, and you're helping Hondo Ohnaka get some coaxium. And the way it functions is you have pilots, gunners, and engineers. The pilots get to have all the fun. The gunners are just pressing one button over and over again, and the engineers have a control panel to the side. They're not really engaged with the action. They wanted to change that, and also they can get focused on Mandalorian Grogu. So the engineer is going to be taking care of Grogu during the flight, and they get to pick the planet you go to. So for the first time, you're not going to Corellia every mission. You're going to get to choose to go to, I believe it's Coruscant, Tatooine, and maybe Endor. I think it's a forest planet. I can't quite remember which one is, but very exciting to have that level of freedom in the game.
And then there's other big changes that were just announced.
Yes, and I'm not going to get into everything here because I think we're going to do a bigger episode about this at some point. But in Disneyland, so not in Florida, but Disneyland, Galaxy's Edge is going to be exiting the strict. I use strict in quotation marks for Disneyland. They're exiting the strict canon timeline. So if you're not familiar with Galaxy's Edge, it takes place between Last Jedi and Rise of Skywalker. So the characters you interact with there are characters from that time period. In Disneyland, they have been a little looser with that, and they have kind of brought in other characters from shows and sort of relevance. And most recently, Luke Skywalker, circa Return of the Jedi, has been on the planet with Arsu. And they've always made sure that they were not interacting with the sequel characters. You weren't going to see Luke and Kylo walking around together. Starting in April, on April 29th, they are blocking the land into 3 distinct areas. So by Rise of the Resistance, which is the main big ride there, that's going to be the sequel area. And Rey will still be in that spot. In the marketplace area, that is going to be where Mandalorian, Grogu, and Ahsoka hang out. So that's going to be the kind of the Mandoverse part of the land. And then moving towards the Millennium Falcon and the First Order parts of the land, that is going to be the original trilogy section. That's a huge overhaul.
Mhm.
Along with that, they're changing a few little aesthetic things throughout the land to kind of de-age some stuff to make it younger. But I would say the biggest change is currently at Galaxy's Edge, there's no Star Wars music anywhere. They play John Williams wrote some Galaxy's Edge suite that he plays when you walk, and you hear it when you walk into the land, and you hear it on the ride. But that's really
Mm.
the only times you hear music in the land. Now they're going to be playing the John Williams score throughout the land, so
Hmm.
we don't know if that's going to be like kept to pockets of certain areas, and you're still going to get to hear the ships and the radio chatter and all that stuff. So we don't really know how that's going to work in practice. And Disney regularly changes these things, so it would not be shocking if they're going to fine tune it over time. But it's going to be a big change. I am cautiously optimistic about it. As someone that really loves the sequel trilogy, it's a little bit of a disappointment to see something that was kind of paying tribute to that change, but it makes me feel good to know that they're doing a lot of storytelling changes to try to keep the story consistent. So that's really exciting. So I'm gonna let them take a pass at it before I pass judgment.
I am just completely disappointed. I think, and I feel like I'm probably the only person I've seen is me. Everyone else
There's
seems to be
dozens of
very
you.
excited about
There's
these
dozens of
changes.
you.
I feel like one of the big selling points of Galaxy's Edge was the immersive. We're on Batuu. It's set in a very specific time, and you're living a story. And to me, that's like everything I've always wanted, was to live a Star Wars story. And that's still there, split into 3 different timelines with no explanation for, I'm just moving between them. And suddenly, I was just talking to Resistance people, and now I'm talking to Luke Skywalker from 30 years ago. It's disappointing, and I feel like it's losing a lot of what makes it special. um I will obviously still go. I will obviously still love it, and I just need to get over it. But I am just over everything being about the original trilogy. I love the original trilogy, but I'm over, everything's original trilogy, and I'm over it.
From I'll say a non-nostalgic point of view, because I've never gone to the parks, I've never experienced them. To me, it makes sense that they're adding original trilogy when we're coming up to next year, which is the 50th anniversary of A New Hope, right? And getting into 50 years of Star Wars and stuff like that. I wouldn't be surprised if there's a lot of celebration and stuff, and having those characters there, to me, makes sense from like that business marketing standpoint. But I don't really have an opinion because I haven't experienced it. I haven't seen it.
Yeah.
What I will say is to give us some hope that things could go back ways one day. Most of the changes they're making are not physical changes.
Mhm.
Like they're not like taking down buildings and stuff. Like this is very minor. And characters can come and go.
Right.
Like just because like Han and Leia and all them are like there today doesn't mean they're going to be there forever. We look back towards when the sequel movies just started coming out, and it was like very big to hate on the prequels all the time, and we're kind of in that point with the sequels right now. But I would say it was like around like 13 years after the prequels were done that the opinions on them kind of changed, and so we're coming up on that. And so and especially if we're getting a 10, 11, 12 that focus on these characters, they're going to be back. I think there's room for concern and room for excitement. That's where I am.
For me, one of the bigger losses here is Vi Moradi,
Yeah.
who is likely lost. And she is such a special character. And let's face it, one of the only people of color queer representations in the entirety of Galaxy's Edge.
The only. They're not bringing Lando. So
as she's just a great character, And if she's not there, and I doubt she is, it's going to be a significant loss. She was awesome.
It's lots of change happening, but hopefully very exciting. Again, those changes will be implemented slowly, but everything is rolling out on April 29th. Thankfully, Austin and I have trips coming to both Galaxy's Edge here. We'll get to go to Disneyland before all those changes are implemented.
Yeah. There's a lot for 2026 in general to be excited about.
Yeah.
Movies, TVs, books, comics, theme parks, all of that stuff is it's looking up, I think, for Star Wars.
I feel like we say that every year. Star Wars is looking up. Star Wars is looking up.
And here we are still getting a lot of content, a lot of content. Like a lot of TV shows and books and stuff like that has been really, really consistent. It's just the movies that haven't, and now maybe it will be. Now we're starting to get into two back-to-back movies. Yeah.
We're 4 months away from Star Wars movie.
Yeah. How blessed are we that we are part of a fandom, a franchise that continues to pump out material at a pretty consistent rate,
right,
for the past 50 years.
Yeah.
Like, I know there have been, peaks and valleys, but it hasn't stopped for 50 years. And that's crazy. That's awesome.
Right. Yeah. So a lot to look forward to this next year, and hopefully you'll join us as we continue to wade through the Star Wars content that we're going to get and talk Star Wars for the rest of this year, because we're planning on continuing to go all this year and try and put out episodes for TV shows and movies and books and all of that stuff. So hopefully you'll continue to join us as we enter and start wading through Star Wars in 2026. I think we are going to let you all go, and so this will be Rogue 3 signing off.
Thanks everyone for joining us to talk about the galaxy far, far away. You can find us on Instagram, Blue Sky, YouTube, and TikTok as Rogue 3 Media. We look forward to talking with you at the next rendezvous point.